How are you? First of all, give yourselves a hand because Sig Mejdal and I were talking about this in the lobby. This should be all about you. These are the true diehard fans, Sig, you were talking about earlier, who braved the weather to come out here to hear what Oriole Brass had to say. Give yourselves a hand. Once again, I'm Rob Long from 105.7 The Fan and Masson, and to my right, Oriole Assistant General Manager Sig Mejdal. To his right, Oriole General Manager Mike Elias, and all the way over to my right is Oriole Field Manager Brandon Hyde. Give them a hand. First of all, I want to start off with you, Mike. This crowd right here, we have several hundred people here in these conditions. They probably wouldn't come out in this weather for a lot of things, but they came out here for Oriole baseball.
I want to echo what Rob said. You guys are our core group of fans. We build off of your support, and to come out here and brave this weather says so much to us, and we know you guys understand what we're doing right now as an organization and where we're headed, and we really appreciate you coming out. So looking forward to hearing your questions today.
First thing I want to ask you is, how was your first winter meetings as a full-time general manager for the Baltimore Orioles?
It was a lot different than last year because a lot of my time last year I was still spent trying to hire this guy. And, was able to spend a lot more time doing kind of normal general manager work, talking to agents and other teams. Meanwhile, the rest of our baseball operations staff and a lot of the new hires that we've brought in over the last year, they were running around the hotel, interviewing job candidates, doing all kinds of good stuff for the organization. So even though we didn't make any moves other than the Rule 5 draft, we got a lot done, and it was a very productive trip, and it was fun having our whole new front office and coaching staff together under one roof for the first time.
Mike, you said normal general manager work, and that's all predicated on what organization you're in. What is normal general manager work for you during the winter meetings?
Well, I guess what I mean by that is player moves. That's what you want to be able to spend as much time as possible on, but we've been doing so much building and hiring across the organization that's been 75% of my time since we've gotten here, just trying to build our team, our front office team, our coaching staff, our minor league coaching staff, which we just completed, and just the amount of hiring that we've done, the amount of digital infrastructure we've created by our analytics staff. It's been a huge effort all year. We're keeping that going, but I feel like things have settled down now, and we're a lot in better shape from like an operational standpoint.
Brandon, you were in San Diego as well as the Oriole manager. What was your role out at the winter meetings?
Well, it was beautiful out there, I'll tell you that. No, I was there involved in the meetings, and we were still doing some coaching hires. So we're doing some interviews there, and really just being involved and sitting in the suite and talking over our plan and everything that's we have going forward. So the Rule 5 draft, all kinds of stuff, I was involved.
Sum up your first year as the manager of the Baltimore Orioles.
Well, I mean, we, at this time last year, I guess I still wasn't hired, but going into spring training last year, we kind of knew what to expect. I think we had a good idea of what was ahead of us for the next 7 months. And I'm really proud of how hard our guys played, to be honest with you. I thought we had some positive things going on, even though the record didn't show it. I thought there was a lot of positive bright spots that we have to look forward to with some young guys that really performed well, and some guys that kind of came out of nowhere, like John Means, solidified himself as a major league starter. So we're just looking for more of that, more of guys to solidify themselves as big league players, continue to draft impact type players, and the next thing you know, we're going to be in the postseason.
Sig Mejdal, the most interesting man in the Baltimore Orioles organization. How are you, Sig?
No, very good. Happy to be here with the
Happy
best
that you're
fans
here,
in the
Sig.
world.
Yes, they are. Yes, they are. Sig, the word you heard Brandon talk about John Means and how he just burst on the scenes. We didn't see that coming. Were there any other people in this organization, players in this organization, that surprised you that you didn't see them having the type of success that they had in 2019?
Yeah, I think that's the wonderful part about baseball. You could do all the analytics. You could take a look at the scouting reports, the coaches' reports, and the future is going to be stranger than you could imagine. And so, yeah, Santander was a wonderful surprise. What Means has done has been great, and I can't wait to see who's going to join that next season.
You know, you mentioned analytics, and I think with Oriole fans, because analytics is so new to the fan base, it's almost as if analytics is 100% of how you evaluate players, but that's not the case. How much of percentage does analytics, or estimated, goes into you evaluating the baseball players?
Yeah, and it's never been. I think since Moneyball, while that was a wonderful book and it enabled persons like myself inside of baseball, it sort of portrayed the decisions that the decision makers have as sort of this either or. You're either listening to the grizzled veteran scout or sort of the nerd in the corner of the room, and that's never been the case. It's really an exercise in combining information. After the hardest working, most experienced scouts has evaluated the players, the numbers squeeze a little bit more predictive ability out of it, and vice versa. After the analysts have taken a look at everything, the scouts' opinions, expertise really moves the needle a lot.
I know when I see players sign for these millions of dollars, $300 million, I've been a Baltimore Oriole fan all my life, and sometimes that's a little scary, a little intimidating. But Mike, as you see baseball's economy going in that direction, being in this market, does that concern you as a general manager here?
Well, I think it's healthy for the game that money's out there, that the teams are going for it. I think it's good overall for the sport. I think teams, when they're going after the really elite, top of the market talents, they'll make those moves. And obviously, not every team has the ability to win one of those bidding wars. Baseball's got a lot of inequity amongst teams and markets, but that's, not a necessary way to compete. And the important thing, I think, from our standpoint is laying a proper foundation across the entire organization before we jump back into being big players in free agency. And we're in the midst of doing that right now. And, eventually that will come and be a part of our plan. But right now we're building the organization the right way. We're building up our minor league base and giving young players an opportunity to play up here in Baltimore.
Now, you folks are standing out there in the rain. I know you have lots of questions, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to come down there and let you all ask questions. Anybody has a question? I'm going to jump down here.
This can be for all three. Ryan Mountcastle was drafted as a shortstop, and he's been moved all over the field. Was there ever thought of him trying second base?
Well, I can only speak for the last year since I've been here, but that's really common. These guys are good baseball players when they're in high school, and usually if you're the best baseball player on your high school team, you're playing short or catcher or center field. He's a big guy, and that's necessitated moving to the corners of the diamond. He can play different spots. We're trying to figure out what's going to be the best one for him, but the important thing is we want him to still be able to move around. So actually, second base is something that we've talked about. I don't think any of us have had a personal look at it, but it's something that we might try to mix in here or there. I don't think that any of us project him as an everyday second baseman defensively, but it might be something he's capable of doing.
Here's Ian. He said he has a question for all three.
What is your favorite Christmas movie?
What do you say?
Say it again.
What is your favorite Christmas movie?
Your favorite Christmas music. Movie, I'm sorry. Your favorite Christmas movie.
Ready? I'm going to answer? I got a couple. I'm going to go with Christmas Vacation and A Christmas Story. Those are my two.
Home Alone.
I forget that's a Christmas movie.
Die Hard.
The most interesting man in the Baltimore Orioles organization. You got a question?
Yeah, so this is for Mike and Sig. So you talked about doing a lot of hiring in operations and in analytics. For prospective candidates, what are you looking for? What are the traits and skill sets you're most targeting in on?
Sounds like he's asking for a friend, right?
Yeah, I get that most every day. So with the notoriety that's come with baseball and analytics and sabermetrics, we really get to choose who we want. There's close to 1,000 resumes every time there's a job opening. Typically, it's a computer science background, maybe often a master's in analytics or applied statistics, skills with manipulating databases, SQL, statistical analysis in R. And beyond that, I think just a pragmatism in the model building that, it does no use to create the most complex model in the world if the decision makers can't understand it and aren't going to use it. And so I think somewhere in there's the balance, but the universities are producing these skilled people like crazy, and so many are coming to baseball. So it's a lot different than it was 14 years ago.
Let me play devil's advocate with that for a second, because there are a lot of naysayers who say that men who've played the game with baseball instincts are being forced out because of the numbers. Is that factual?
No, I mean, it's not. Like, the analytics is growing undoubtedly, and with technology and data coming, I think the skills required for a coach or a scout, of course, are changing. And many are able to change with the time and combine both that experience, that old school, if you will, and the new school abilities to take advantage of whatever else is out there. And it really leaves you no choice. Our competition is looking at those types of persons, and we have to also.
I agree.
First, before I ask my question, I want to commend all three of you for coming to Baltimore and for doing what you guys are doing to the team right now. As a loyal fan, I'm ready for what's next, and I appreciate all you guys are doing, so thank you, and welcome home.
Thanks.
My pleasure. Thank you for coming out. Thank you.
So my question is, there's been some rumor within Rob Manfred that he's going to eliminate some of the minor league teams and rebuild the system, and some of the Frederick Keys were included in that list. Was there anything discussed at the winter meetings involving that proposal from Mr. Manfred at all?
Yeah, I don't have a lot of info on that topic. We read the stuff in the media like you do. It's a conversation that's going on between Major League Baseball and minor league baseball at the league level. I think it's a big negotiation. I think we're going to have to see where it all lands. These things kind of take a course of their own sometimes through a negotiation. And ultimately, I think whatever they work out, I mean, there's a lot of smart people working on it. It's going to leave minor league baseball in a healthier spot. I have confidence that that'll end up being the case. But no, I don't have any specific info on it.
Roy has a question. What's your question, Roy?
What do you think of Robert Manfred's new rule that each pitcher has to pitch to 3 batters before being changed?
Let me take it?
It's the best question of the morning.
No doubt. It's a baseball question.
That's good.
It is. I'm a little bit in a wait and see. I'm not a big fan of it right now in the way it's written, but we're gonna kind of wait and see. I think it's still a little fuzzy on the details. Once a guy finishes an inning and has to go back out, if he has to face 3 hitters, or how that's gonna work. So it's definitely gonna change the game and how bullpens are being used, and it's gonna change the game on the quality of your bullpen, of being able to get left-handed and right-handed hitters out. So it's going to be different. It's something we've talked about a lot at the winter meetings and our managers' meetings, and we're kind of wait and see.
I'm back in the cheap seats here with Patrick. What's your question, Patrick?
Being in a rebuilding situation like the organization is in right now, what role do veterans play within bringing up the younger guys, and how can you guys do that through free agency or just veteran presence within the locker room?
Well, it's a very important component in a rebuild, and as we're kind of looking out at the free agent market this winter, that is something that we're keeping in mind. The balance that we have to strike, especially in this early stages where we're still trying to audition a lot of young players, is we don't want to block spots where a Santander or a Means get this wonderful opportunity to play for a full year, but still have some stability on the club with some veteran guys. And then as we crank this up and get better, I think we'll layer in more and more veterans once we have a clearer idea of what our core team looks like.
Joey has a question over here.
So you guys made some really good waiver claims last year, for example, like Alberto. What do you guys look for in those waiver claims?
Yeah, there's not one specific thing. We look for players that look interesting, and sometimes that's based on their statistics in the minor leagues so far. Sometimes it's based on some untapped potential in the scouting reports. Usually when a guy is on waivers, there's a reason that a team has given up on him, but there are players that have some interesting attributes, and Alberto and Pedro Severino were like that, and they were still young, and you thought something might change this year. So we're going to continue to work the waiver wire. That's one of the areas where we have a high claiming position, It's a good way to supplement talent.
John has a question over here.
Baltimore's a baseball town, and when you get cooking, we'll be a baseball town again. Right now, the Ravens seem to be doing a little bit of analytics. How far do you think they can take it with all the moving parts they have, where you just have one guy throwing the ball at a time and you can measure it and things like that, where they have 22 guys running around?
Yeah, Robert broke up a little bit.
He said the Ravens are now using analytics. How far with analytics do you think they can take it when you have 22 men moving around at the same time?
Yeah. No, that's a good question. It's definitely not my expertise. I think it's fascinating, the challenges there are in football and the opportunity. I think football is, from an analytical standpoint, where baseball was maybe 10 or 12 years ago. So we have a good relationship with the analysts, and I love to hear and ask them questions. But I don't know. I think there's, like anything, there's player tracking starting, and a lot of the things that the experts would sense that we can now measure at a rate greater than what the human could perceive, and there has to be something of value from that. But exactly how much, I don't know, but I look forward to the lunches with the Ravens, and maybe they'll share a bit.
Paul has a question.
I appreciate you going through the rebuild and doing what has to be done to get the Orioles back to championship level. It seemed like before the change to your administration, Mike, it was more focused on some AA ball players or AAA ball players to get more of a chance to compete sooner. I noticed the last couple trades, you dominated it with single-A players. I know it's probably dependent upon what you're offered in return, but is that a plan to perhaps really go down to the lower levels to build for the future with some high-end prospects, as opposed to just some young players who might be ready sooner, but yet not have the potential of some of the people you just acquired?
Yeah, we try to do as best we can in any trade return, whether that's a player in the high minors or the low minors. We're going to take whichever one we like better. But, if the level of return is equal amongst the two, oftentimes when a team is offering up a guy from AA or AAA, there's more of a certainty about what they're going to become. Their ceiling's a little bit more established, or they're already on the 40-man roster. They're already using up their options. They, need to be protected from the Rule 5 draft. And when you can get the younger players, there's a little more variability. There's a little more ability to dream, and some upside in the future, as Sig was saying, is a little more uncertain. So in our situation, if we're able to get our hands on some guys in A-ball or high A, it can make sense for us. But that doesn't mean that we won't trade for AAA or major league players even. But we do want to have a really strong pipeline top to bottom. Until recently, we were ignoring the international market, so our lower minors are feeling that right now, and it's nice to inject some talent there for sure.
Brandon, this one is from me to you. First of all, you have the best haircut on the stage. I want to tell you that, man. I love it. Second of all, you paid your dues coming up in the ranks as a coach, now as a manager. After a year with the Orioles, do you see anyone there with that coaching and maybe even managerial sense or capabilities?
Like a future coach?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, Mark Trumbo.
Mark Trumbo.
Yeah.
That's who I was thinking.
Yeah, Trumbo for sure. I was thinking of a younger guy. I think, one is like the makeup. I think a lot of the guys on our club honestly have future coach attributes. I think we have just solid makeup guys that know the game pretty well and that are hungry to learn more. Mark's got such great experience and he's got all kinds of experience. Pitcher coming out of high school, there's gonna be a first-round pick, and then he becomes a silver slugger type player. Just the way he is with younger players is fantastic, and he knows the game really well.
This one is from Frank.
Hi, it's great to be here. I wanted to ask you, has any thought been given to moving back the fences? I realize that would be expensive, but we've got to help out these pitchers in this small ballpark. Thank you.
We'll leave that to Mike.
I don't know if our hitters would like that too much. This isn't my area, but I don't see a lot of room to move them back right now. But I do know that the organization is planning a lot of work around the stadium in a lot of ways over the next few years, and we'll see what all that entails.
Back here with Heather. Heather, you have a question?
Hi, my question deals with building and maintaining a fan base during a rebuild. I feel like women are really untapped fan base when it comes to baseball. That baseball is a sport that is more likely to appeal to women than a lot of other sports are, and that Major League Baseball hasn't really put enough effort into reaching out to women. And do you guys have any plans to do any women's outreach or more women's outreach than you have? And what do you think of the idea of adding more women's outreach programs and more theme days and giveaways and et cetera that would be targeting specifically women?
Yeah, I think those are great ideas. We have so many passionate fans, male and female, that we want to reach out to every one of them as best we can. So when you have ideas like that, share them. I know we'll share them with the business side of our organization, but we love the fact that you feel that way, that sentiment's out there, and I think it would be great if we could do something like that and get as many fans, male and female, out here as possible. So we like all the support we can get. In terms of the rebuild, this is a huge part of our success is going to be you guys hanging in there, understanding the process, and helping us spread this message around the city as well. So I thank you for that comment.
Over here behind the umbrella with Jeff.
Yeah, so my question is, for you guys, you're obviously new to the organization. For Sig and Brandon, you're new to the area, and Mike, I know you grew up in Northern Virginia. Seeing the Nationals win the World Series was, honestly, felt kind of like a slap in the face, because I felt they've been like a little brother for the longest time, and now the fact that they won a World Series before we have. And I know there's a lot of, here we have the diehard fans that are out here, but there's a lot of casual baseball fans in the area who are seeing the success the Nationals are having and saying, you know what, I can go down to DC and see a winning team. So how'd you talk to the casual fans to say, yes, we're doing a rebuild, but we're going to have winning in the future, and how would you tell them to stick around, and what's your big message to them?
Yeah, as you mentioned, I'm from this region, and I have a lot of feel for the Baltimore, D.C. area. And I know that fans from both sides of the market will be supportive of the Orioles when we turn back to where we were a few years ago, a playoff, exciting caliber team. I think that the fact that the Nationals won the World Series, it's good for baseball in the region. But more specifically, I look at it from the perspective of, I remember where they were, and they built that organization the way we're building the Orioles right now. Scouting, a very strong international focus. They were patient. They did a good job with some high draft picks, which we're in the midst of right now. And it shows that exact model can lead to where the Nats are. So, we look forward to getting back on equal footing with them one day. Right now, we're not there quite yet, but I know we will. And I think that the success that the Ravens are having right now shows that we can draw support from that side of the market too. So, I'm looking forward to it. We're working on it, and it's going to be a lot of fun when we get back there.
I think that the three of us are really, when we keep talking about rebuild and fans, and understand that we fully get it, that it's hard to watch at times. It's frustrating. It's frustrating in the chairs we're sitting in right now also. But we understand the process it's going to take, how long it's going to take, and we just want everybody to just buy into what's going on. Because I think there's a lot of positive things going forward with the high draft picks last year. Some of the guys that we showcased late in the year, they're going to be fun to watch this next year. So we hope everybody kind of wraps their arms around them and continue to follow us going forward.
Karen, what's your question for our panel?
I'm not too sure about this analytics. I've been a baseball fan all my life, and that's been a really long time. But I'm wondering how much is given to detail. I watch every detail. Like Stevie Wilkerson, he hops from the on-deck circle to bat. If he doesn't hop, he doesn't bat very well. Ronaldo Nunez, when he wears his orange shoes, 98% he's going to hit a home run. Are you looking into that? Is that part of what's going on here?
I think you
See,
should.
when she put 98%, it became analytics.
No, I've been meaning to this week, but it just flew by. No, the superstitions that you talk about have not made it to the top of our list. Like, this was an organization that didn't have much there, but I look forward to the day where we look around and go, okay, what's next? And, let's investigate the hopping.
Back here with John. John, what's your question?
This is for Brandon Hyde. Do you think Pedro Severino will become the regular starting catcher?
I think Sevy's going to play a lot like he did last year. I think it was pretty cool how he took advantage of an opportunity. We got him from the Nationals. He performed, played really well, swung the bat well, and improved over the course of the year. So we're excited about the development that he's made and how much he improved over the course of last season. So yeah, I think you're going to see him get a lot of innings behind the plate and get a lot of at-bats next year.
I have Neil over here. Neil, what's your question?
Okay. So we got Jonathan VR in part of the Scope trade, and then he had a great season. And so what was the thinking of getting rid of him, and at what point do you think we'd be keeping a player like him?
Yeah, good question. He was a big part of the team last year, had a great year. We're looking towards the future, and when a player only has a year left on his contract with us, there are other players that we can allocate that playing time to that might be able to better project as part of our future. And when he's getting towards free agency and getting towards the higher end of the arbitration salaries, it sort of forces a tough decision about whether to factor him into your plans or to use that payroll space elsewhere across the organization. So we did as best we could shopping him around the league and came away with a return that we were content with. And now we've got to figure out a way to replace him, and we will. And we're out there looking right now for other players to play in the middle infield. But those decisions are difficult. It's part of navigating a rebuild and an off season, and I am looking forward to the day when we're more focused on the near term. But right now we've got to keep our eye on what we're doing, which is building for the future.
Kevin has a question.
This is for Mike. With another top pick in the draft coming up, have you started your evaluations already? And can you give us some insight? And lastly, do you see more upside for the organization with position players?
Good questions. Yeah, we start our process, our very focused process for the draft as soon as the last draft ends. And our scouts go out in the summer. They go to high school showcases. They go to the Cape Cod League, which is an elite college baseball league. They watch the USA team, and we have a very firm idea right now of what the options look like at the top of the draft. Now that tends to change, and we get into the spring and we start following these guys every move and put them under a microscope. That'll change, but right now it looks to us like a very college-heavy group. There are a couple college pitchers and then 3 or 4 college position players that we've got our eye on right now. And we'll monitor the high school class if somebody makes a jump, but it's looking like a college-heavy group at the top of the draft. So we scout them in the summer, and then in the winter time, we'll actually go out and sit down and meet with this group of players and start getting to know them. And I'll do that personally, and expect to do that in January. We've already got a lot of that planned. So I'm excited about it. In terms of pitchers versus position players, we're going to take whoever we feel is the best guy. But certainly, everyday cornerstone core players, those are hard to come by, and if there's a couple of them at the top of the draft, that's going to be attractive.
Now, Emmert has a question for the panel, but a specific fashion question for you, Mike.
Mike, where'd you get that jacket from? It's really nice.
This jacket is from Uniqlo. It costs $100. One of the best things I've ever bought.
It's good. I'm gonna go and get one. there's a few teams going through rebuilds right now, and what I was trying to understand is what's our edge? What's going to make us get ahead of those guys?
Yeah, great question. We try to be as smart as we can be with every personnel decision that we make. I think we've got a really good system that we apply in the draft and in player development. But we wake up every day nervous about staying ahead in those areas. Sig and Matt Blood, our new player development director, and Eve Rosenbaum, and all these people who are focused on the latest and greatest in the player development sphere are looking ahead, and we're staying ahead in that area. We're investing a ton in that area. We have more coaches than we had last year. We have more technology than we had last year. We have better info. But I do think through our tried and true processes in scouting and player development and our ability to look ahead and stay ahead in those areas, I'm hopeful that we can do a better job than the next team at a rebuild.
And if I could add one thing, the analytics gets a lot of attention, and that's undoubtedly a change that's taken place in baseball. But what also has happened recently is the skills in the coaches, and that's perhaps a little less sexy. That doesn't get much attention. But the coaches we have are just cocked and ready to take advantage of whatever analytics, whatever technology, whatever best practices from other fields they could borrow and develop our players at hopefully a better rate than anybody in our division.
Trudy has a question.
Any of you. I just wonder if Davis might come back. I know a lot of people are upset with him personally. I just think he's a wonderful first baseman or anywhere he is, even pitching when he has to. And, is it because of his not batting and all that he may not be put out there?
Yeah, I mean, look, his situation and his decline the last couple of years has been a source of frustration for everybody. It's tough. It's tough for all of us. It's tough for the coaching staff. It's really tough on Chris. As you mentioned, he's a terrific member of the community, the team. He's a big part of the history of the team. He's one of the better players that the Orioles have ever had. But we're in this situation where he's under contract for a while, and I look at that. I don't take it lightly, and we're working with him to make adjustments and fix him. But it's not easy.
I have just a short comment. I'm impressed at how our guys, though losing through the season, took it, and they are, I think they're going to do a lot better this year. I mean, look at how the Ravens remodeled. I know probably not to say that, but I think I have a lot of faith in them. And Brandon out there, you're not quite as rough. You're really a smooth. You talk about whatever's going on. I'm surprised you could do that with the news the way they are, But I just wish them a good season this year, all of us.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
All right, here's from Tom.
Speaking for those of us of a certain age, any plans to celebrate the 1970 World Championship team this year?
Good question. I don't know the answer to that off the top of my head, but I'm sure there are people here that do. I definitely think with it being the 50th anniversary, it's something that will be celebrated throughout the year. Specific details of that, I don't know, but I'm sure we're gonna spend some time on it.
Yeah, I see heads nodding in the back here, so there's something planned.
So with Jonathan VR being gone, can you break down some of our internal options in the minors, like Mason McCoy and Rylan Bannon, and talk about how close they are?
They're getting there. Mason McCoy and Rylan Bannon are two of our middle infield prospects at the upper levels, and they went out to the Arizona Fall League this fall and played pretty well. Mason's a really good defender. His offensive production's been picking up. I think we're going to have to see how much his bat's going to play, but I think his glove's going to work defensively in the big leagues. Bannon, on the other hand, has been a much better offensive prospect, and he can move around different spots. Second base, third base are probably more likely going to be his options, but we might give him some time in shortstop this year and see what that looks like. So those guys will be in spring training. We're going to get a good look at them. They're coming, but they still need to spend more time in AAA and keep developing. So for that reason, we're probably going to focus on some external options in terms of middle infield.
This is from Dan.
When a minor league player is coming up, instead of having different coaches, say you got to do this, you got to do that, are you guys laying out a plan for this is what you do at all levels?
Yeah, it's we have organizational philosophies, and you have, the one thing about minor league systems is that there's a lot of communication. And so when a player does jump a level, there's communication from pitching coach to the next pitching coach to the farm director to everybody involved in the player move. And I think that's really important of a strong organization is free flow of communication and understanding the plan in place for the player. The player understands the plan, and there's nothing lost, with the communication there. So I think that's really, really important as guys jump level to level.
This is from Romeo.
Hey guys, I hear Bowie Bay Sox legend Caleb Joseph's on the market. Is there any way we could bring him back, or we can get Lamar Jackson back there?
I'm into that.
I think Lamar's got some more important things right now than being a minor league free agent But Caleb Joseph, he's a great guy, great member of this organization for a long time, and he's a free agent currently, and he's on the radar screen for us, and we're looking at some catching depth options, and we'll see where it lands. But I mean, we would love to have him back for sure. I mean, he was great throughout his time here, and very welcome member of the organization.
This is from Al.
Hello. What pitching prospects do we have in our minor league organization that look promising, and do you think any of them will be coming up during the season?
Yeah, look, I think we have one of the best groups of minor league pitchers in baseball right now. I really do. We've got, I could name about 15 guys that are really exciting us. But just off the top of my head and quickly, DL Hall, Grayson Rodriguez, two of the best pitchers at the lower levels in baseball this year. First round picks from the organization, huge stuff, but they're also performing. That's really exciting. We got to move these guys carefully through the system, keep them healthy, make sure they're polished by the time they get here. But I think both of those pitchers have front of the rotation potential. We have a lot of guys a little bit closer to the big leagues, some of whom are going to get here this year, and you're going to see them pitch. And they're more mid to back end type projections, but you never know. And Keegan Aiken, Bruce Zimmerman, Michael Bauman, Zach Lowther, those guys are all in Bowie or Norfolk, and still finishing their minor league journeys. And it's going to take a little bit of time, but I think all of those guys have a chance to get up to Baltimore here in the next year. And there are so many more. We just brought in a whole bunch of arms from the Bundy trade, from the draft, and we have a wonderful pitching development program that really turned up the performance this year at the minor leagues. So I think it's a huge advantage for us. And the group of pitchers that we have in the minor leagues, I don't know that I would trade them for anyone else's.
This is Jordan.
Hi. What did you guys notice about John Means this year that made him successful, and how can you apply that to other homegrown pitchers?
Well, John really came out of nowhere for us. It was fantastic. Made the team the last day of spring training. Threw well in New York in that opening series, and we needed guys in the rotation and gave him the opportunity. He took off. I think one thing about John, he's really a confident guy. He's big, strong, durable, big-time competitor. So I just think he's got mental makeup to be able to pitch here in the big leagues, and then he's got the physical attributes to be able to be durable and to stay healthy over the course of the year. So, yeah, more John Means, the better.
This is from Alex.
Yeah, could you guys break down the return from the Bundy trade a little bit? What was the philosophy going into that? And if there are any things in specific you're excited about any of these guys?
We just wanted to get as much prospect value as we could back, and whether that came in one player or four players, we looked at a bunch of different options with a bunch of different clubs. The Angels were the most aggressive, and we liked all four of those guys for different reasons, for specific reasons, but we thought it was a really good package. Kyle Bradish in particular is probably the furthest, well, not the furthest along. Isaac Matson's in AAA and is a very high-performing relief pitcher that we think can help us up here this year. But Kyle Bradish is a starter prospect who was in High A this year. Very strong year in a really tough league to pitch in. And he's going to be in our rotation in Bowie this year. And then we got two other guys from the draft that we really like too. So it's just a really strong group coming back, and it's further bolstering this really impressive group of pitching prospects we've compiled in the minor leagues.
This is from Drew.
Hello, I'd like to say good afternoon. And my question is, how do you view it as, truthfully, this is a kid's game? Like, how do you look at it as, say, you have two all-star infielders like second and short that get along and don't get along, but then communication skills to treat it like a kid's game compared to a money game?
Yeah, definitely a kid's game. I think that when you have total buy-in from your team, you have 25 guys trying to win every single night. Not everybody gets together, off the field. Not everybody's best friends, but when you get a core group of guys that care about winning, that's the most important thing, and then enjoy to win and enjoy playing. But it's like any walk of life. You're not going to be best friends with every single person you work with, but you want 25 guys to all be pulling from the same end of the rope and want to achieve the same goal.
This is from Josh.
26.
This question for Mike. Question for Mike. So we just saw Zach Cosar trade recently. A team takes on a big salary for the purpose of getting a top-tier prospect. Is that strategy you consider or something you have the flexibility to pursue to acquire more talent?
Yeah, I think it's something that we'll look at anytime it comes along. The reality is that money, we're deploying all kinds of funds all across the organization, mostly towards scouting and player development and building out our front office and our infrastructure right now. We have to view it in the context of everything that we're doing across the organization, but we'll remain open to opportunities like that as they come along.
This is from Justin.
Hey guys, thank you for coming here and getting us in the right direction, everything like that. So I appreciate the patience, and we're excited to see what you do. I know we're trying to save salary and funds and things like that. Why would we not name the stadium to try to get in a huge amount of money every year? Is there any talks about doing something like that?
What do you want to name it? I'll pass it along and see if we can get it done. As long as we can keep calling it Camden Yards, I think we'll be fine.
This is from Matt. It's our final question.
This is for Mike and Sig. When you're looking at a possible trade return, do you assign a future value grade to the player to see who you want to target?
Yeah, I think, right, like in a general sense, it's runs that win games, and when you're trading for a prospect, you're really trying to quantify the expectation of the runs he's going to produce, whether it's a pitcher, a great defender, or a hitter. And so we do our best, whether you're a high school kid, a player in the draft, a 4A player, or a veteran, of how many runs we expect going forward and what variability around it, and then that often anchors the deal. If our models, our scouts are saying this is going to return more runs, then our attention is peaked. And so, yeah, it's probably not too different than what you see on many of the third-party sites.
Once again, give a hand to Oriole General Manager Mike Elias.
Thank you, guys. Thanks for coming
Oriole
out today.
Assistant General Manager Sig Mejdal.
And the super fans we have here.
And Oriole Manager Brandon Hyde. And give yourselves a hand. Thank you very much for coming to our first winter warm-up. Let's get ready for the 2020 season.